A man collapses on a busy sidewalk at rush hour. Dozens of people stream past him, not one stops. They glance down, then keep walking, like he is furniture. You assume someone will help. Surely someone will help. But here is the terrifying thing scientists have proven. The more people who are watching, the less likely anyone helps. This is the bystander effect, and it is brutal. It is one of the darkest patterns in human psychology. You would think a crowd means safety, more people, more help. The truth is the exact opposite. The bigger the crowd, the more alone the victim becomes. You have probably walked past someone yourself and felt that pull. A person slumped on a train while everyone studies their phone. You feel a flicker of worry. Then you glance around at the others. Nobody else seems alarmed, so you let your eyes drop back down. You decide they are probably just tired or sleeping it off. Everyone in that carriage makes the exact same silent calculation, and so the whole train does nothing, together. Right now you are certain that you would step in. Almost everyone is certain. The research says most of us are wrong. This is not about bad people or a cruel world. It is about a hidden glitch running quietly inside all of us. And it began with one infamous night that horrified a nation. A night whose real story is stranger than the legend. In 1964, a woman named Kitty Genovese came home late. It was around 3 in the morning in a quiet neighborhood. As she walked to her door, a man attacked her with a knife. She screamed for help into the night, again and again. A neighbor shouted down, and the attacker actually ran off. But no one came outside. No door opened. The street stayed empty, so the attacker came back. He found her and finished what he started. According to the story that spread, 38 people heard it all. 38 neighbors looked out their windows and did nothing. The country was stunned. How could 38 people do nothing? That single question launched an entire field of science. 2 psychologists, John Darley and Bib Latané, had a radical idea. What if the problem was not 38 cruel people? What if the problem was the 38 itself, the crowd? So they designed an experiment to test it. They put a student alone in a room, talking through an intercom. Partway through, another voice faked a sudden, choking seizure. The voice begged for help, then went silent. When the student believed they were the only one listening, 85% rushed out to get help, and fast. Then the researchers ran it again, with one small change. The student now believed 4 other people were also listening. Suddenly, only 31% went for help. Same emergency, same desperate cries, just more people present. And the few who did help took far longer to move. Most just sat there, frozen, listening to a stranger choke. And in a real emergency, those lost seconds are everything. A crowd does not just help less often, it also helps slower. The more witnesses there are, the longer the victim is left waiting. The cause has a name: diffusion of responsibility. When you are the only witness, the responsibility is all yours. You own it completely, so you act, but add more people, and that responsibility gets divided. Split it among 10, and you each feel 1/10 of it. It is like a bill that arrives with no name on it. Everyone assumes someone else will quietly pick up the tab, so no one does. The victim falls through the cracks between them. The researchers tested this again and again, in new ways. In one study, a woman in the next room fell and cried out in pain. A person waiting alone went to help her 7 times out of 10. But seat them beside one calm stranger who did nothing, and helping collapsed to almost 0. One passive face froze them. Because diffusion of responsibility is only the first force. There is a second one, and it is far sneakier. Imagine smoke starts seeping into a waiting room. If you are alone, you get up and report it almost every time. But the researchers filled the room with calm actors. Real smoke poured in, and the actors simply ignored it. Now the real participants mostly sat there too, saying nothing. Some let the room fill until they could barely see across it. This is called pluralistic ignorance. In a confusing moment, you look to other people to read the situation. If everyone around you looks calm, you decide it must be nothing. But here's the trap that hides inside that logic. Everyone else is doing the exact same thing you are. Each person stays calm only because everyone else looks calm. The whole group quietly talks itself into doing nothing. You mistake their silence for proof that there is no danger. There is a third force, and it is painfully human. It is the simple fear of embarrassing yourself. What if you rush in and it turns out to be nothing? What if you overreact in front of all of these people? So you wait. You scan the crowd. You hesitate. And there is one more thing that quietly kills our compassion. Hurry. In a famous study, students walked across campus to give a talk. Some were told they were late and needed to rush. On the way, each passed a man slumped and groaning in a doorway. The students in a hurry mostly stepped right over him. Only about 1 in 10 of the rushing students stopped. Given a little time to spare, most of them helped easily. The kindness was always there. Hurry simply switched it off. Here's the dark joke. Many were on their way to preach about the Good Samaritan. They were literally rushing to talk about helping a stranger. Today, this effect has found a terrible new home. Your phone. We watch people filmed in crisis instead of helped. 1,000 viewers comment, and still no one steps in. The crowd just got bigger, and the silence got louder. Every viewer assumes a comment is enough, that someone closer will act. The screen makes the diffusion of responsibility almost infinite. 1,000,000 witnesses can somehow feel like no witness at all. Now here's the part that should genuinely disturb you. The people who stood frozen were not monsters. They were ordinary, decent people. People exactly like you. Their hearts were fine. The situation hijacked their behavior. And there is a deeper twist buried in the Genovese story. Most of that famous version was simply not true. A newspaper had inflated the details into a perfect, damning legend. In reality, several neighbors did call the police. Some never clearly saw what was happening in the dark. The tidy image of 38 silent monsters was a myth. But ask yourself why that myth spread so fast and stuck so hard. Because believing they were monsters is strangely comforting. If they were evil, then you are safe. You are different from them. The real science says something far more frightening than that. Good people freeze, kind people walk right past. You might too. And it traces back to something ancient inside us. For 100,000 years, the group was your whole survival. To stand out, to be wrong in front of everyone, was dangerous. So your brain learned to follow the crowd, even into silence. The villain was never a group of heartless witnesses. The villain is the invisible math of the crowd itself. But this story does not end in despair. It ends in power. Because there is an escape, and it is almost magical. Simply knowing about the bystander effect breaks its spell. People who learn what you just learned go on to help far more. The knowledge itself turns you into the person who steps forward. So keep 2 things with you for the rest of your life. If you are ever the one in trouble, do not shout to everyone. Shouting "someone help" lets every single person off the hook. Instead, point at one person and lock onto their eyes. Say, "You, in the blue jacket, call an ambulance now." You hand them the responsibility, and they will almost always act. And if you are the witness, be the very first to move. The crowd is frozen, waiting for a signal that acting is okay. You can be that signal. The instant you step in, others follow. One person breaks the spell that holds 100 people still. The paralysis only lasts until someone decides to go first. Because the world is not actually full of cold, heartless people. It is full of frozen people, all waiting for permission to care. You can be the one who finally gives them that permission. So the next time everyone around you is standing perfectly still, do not wait to be rescued by the crowd. Move, and the crowd moves with you. So be that someone. Be the one who moves. If you want to know how a single person can flip an entire crowd, the psychology of conformity is your next video.